Hello everyone, welcome back to Wicked Scary. So this episode is going to be the first edition of It Came From the Internet, which might become more of a live streaming thing, something that I can have guests on and just like a general retelling of things that I found online that seem spooky. Today's video is going to be taken from r/ghost. That's, of course, if you're not familiar, the Reddit subreddit dedicated to ghost stories. So I'm going to share a few ghost stories from there, and hopefully you enjoy this, you like this format, and we can just go from there. All right, so the first story from party-1-8712, we started off the thread and invited everyone to add their own stories, was, I've been in law enforcement for over 16 years here in Texas, and I've seen more than my fair share of tragic, creepy, and downright unexplainable things on the job. From murder scenes to suicides to fatality accidents, sometimes a place just feels different. I've posted here before about my burglary in progress call I responded to, but there's another encounter that still sticks with me. I may have shared it before, but I figured it's worth repeating for everyone. There was one call I went to, a quote, death notification, that really freaked me out. I had to contact some family members of a deceased woman that was involved in a fatal car accident a few miles away from her home. When I arrived, I met a woman near the roadway just inside the property gate. She said she had heard me coming from miles away. I asked her if she lived at the residence, which she confirmed she did. After asking her to speak with me at the house, she agreed but said she needed the walk as the house was about 75 yards from the road. After making it to the house, I approached the front door on a small wooden porch and began scanning the driveway for the woman. It was about 1 a.m. and completely dark. While looking for the woman, the front door opened and a younger woman appeared. She was concerned about my presence and asked if everything was okay. I asked if I could speak with her and any other adults inside, and she welcomed me in. I told her I would wait for the woman I met near the gate, and she told me nobody else should be home. I then freaked out and began searching the property. Nothing. After entering the residence, I told her and her husband the news about Susan, which ended up being her mother. She said her mother moved in a few months back and her father had passed and wasn't handling it well. While she and her husband were comforting one another, I began looking at photos on the wall. There's this picture of a middle-aged woman that stuck out to me. She was a younger version of the woman I spoke with near the gate. While looking at the picture, the daughter confirmed that was her mother, the woman that passed in the wreck. I spoke with the ghost of the individual that died in the car crash, just before telling her family what happened. This experience, and many others, prompted me to start sharing stories like these from the job. If you're interested, I got a YouTube video about this and similar stories for fellow officers on my YouTube channel, Policing the Shadows. Link down below for that. So I think that's a super weird, interesting story. I mean, who else could it have been? It just really comes down to whether or not you believe him. And if you're watching this, Policing the Shadows, would love to do a collaboration. Maybe you could be on a future episode of It Came From the Internet. So Foxtrot RN commented, "That was a neat read. Thank you for sharing that. My dad had a very distinct shuffling sound when he walked barefoot. My dad had just passed away and my brother and I were sitting in the living room talking. It was like 12 or 1 a.m. We heard the shuffling sound of our dad's footsteps walking in the kitchen toward us. We both whipped our heads to look. It's been 2 decades and we still talk about it." Another story about Dad. We were in the living room and my dad just passed away about an hour ago. We had one of those big CD players that held 6 CDs. The system didn't have a remote anymore, but it randomly turned on, shuffled to his favorite CD, We the Kings, and the knob turned up full blast. His body was still in the house and we think he wanted to party and celebrate his life, not to mourn him. It was freaky, but comforting. Last dad haunting. My dad was a comedian and part of an improv troupe. He lived to have fun and laugh. We were sitting around the living room. It was 3 days after he had died, and my cousin and brother were just talking about him in life. Then out of nowhere, the surround sound started echoing the sound of laughter. Everyone freaked out, especially because everything was completely turned off, just like an echoing ha 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 above our heads. I think my dad might have enjoyed the afterlife and the jokes he could make, question mark. I love this story because it's very antithetical to what we normally hear about with hauntings, as someone who is, a comedian as well, at times. Not on this channel as much, but on my other channels. I like to think that if I were a ghost, I would, be pranking my friends in ways like this. Fun ways, stuff that makes you remember the deceased fondly. So Worcestershire, like, I guess a play on Worcestershire, commented, "I have quite a few stories, but people in the comments sharing their experiences of losing loved ones reminded me of a truly bizarre one I had years ago. My Nana had passed away, and as many of us do when grieving, I was having dreams of her quite a bit. A few of them felt very much like a visit. She was so present. My mom, her daughter, was in town, and we shared my bed. I dreamed of my Nana that first night, and in the dream, the sky suddenly turned dark and tornadoes started closing in around us. Over the roar of the storms, my Nana was screaming out to me, 'You girls, wake up, now, wake up, wake up.' I shot up out of bed and could see the blinds that the sky was that eerie orange and green that almost looks like daylight, but it was 4 a.m. I immediately turned on the TV and saw we had multiple tornado warnings and watches around us. To be fair, our area was in a valley in such a way that we would get tornadoes surrounding us, but they wouldn't hit the actual area. I woke my mom up, and as we were watching, the news branch hit my bedroom window and sprayed glass on the bed where we were, but they weren't there because of the warning. Wasn't a deadly risk, but I have never forgotten that. It was my Nana without a doubt." Again, love this story. Nana looking out from the great beyond. Who knows? Could have been a coincidence, but it's kind of fun to imagine that it wasn't. All right. Spider Speller commented, "I have a cat one. We had 2 old lady cats, Hazel and Anira, who had been together for almost their entire lives. They had their funny little routines together. One of them was that every time Hazel heard Anira's tags clinking against the food bowl, she would perk up and go running out to join her so that they could eat together. Anira got sick a few years ago, lost her appetite, started losing weight. She had aggressive cancer, and we ended up having a vet come in and put her down. We were glad to be able to do it at home. That night, I was sitting on bed with Hazel. I thought I heard Anira's tags clanking against her food bowl, but I told myself it was just because I was used to hearing it and missing our girl. Then I looked at Hazel, and she was staring at the door, all perked up like she would do when she heard that sound. She hopped up and went trotting out to the food bowls. And then Anira came to have one more dinner with her little bestie. Damn, that one's sad. Though I do love the idea of a cat visiting its owners in the afterlife. So final one for this video, Lucha Libre said, "Me and my wife bought our first home. It was a new build. No one had ever lived there before. We had moved in a couple months prior, and one late morning we were cuddling on the couch, which backed up to the window in the family room. We were watching TV when we heard a very clear and distinctive knock on the window pane directly overhead. We immediately got up because the window was to the backyard where no one should have been. It only took a split second to stand and look. No one was there. We had a big backyard in broad daylight. Nobody could have gotten out of sight that quickly. We discussed it and agreed. We both heard someone knock on the window, sounding like it was directly above our heads. Another time, same house, late afternoon. My wife was super spooked when I got home. I asked her what was the matter. She said that the door that led to the garage started shaking and the locked doorknob was rattling, like someone was on the other side trying to frantically open the door. She assumed it was me and I had forgotten my key, so she went to open the door. Felt the resistance when she grabbed the doorknob like a hand still trying to turn it on the other side, then it let go completely. She opened the door and was shocked to see a completely empty garage. We also would hear tapping noises at night in our bedroom. We weren't really scared, and it happened occasionally over the 2 years we lived there. Never were able to explain it. Yeah, that's creepy, especially the door one. I don't love the idea of like a ghost trying to break into your house. Very, very off-putting. But anyways, I hope you liked this video. I know a little bit of lazy content, didn't quite have time to make a full-length video, but I have been posting shorts that have been doing pretty well. Actually, I have a new one out just now about potential UFO sightings in my neck of the woods, so go check that out. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.